I think, Jay and I can both attest to that. 10U is often the worst age. I mean, the kids are great. There's nothing wrong with the kids, but the parents are insane.
Whether you live northeast, west, or south, the best fast pitch info comes from the coach's mouth. Welcome to the From the Coach's Mouth podcast with your hosts, Jay Bolden and Ken Kraus.
Welcome to From the Coach's Mouth. I am Jay Bolden here with my good friend, the legend, Ken Kraus. Ken, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Jay. It's cold and icy out here, but other than that, everything's good. Managed to get my morning newspaper without slipping and falling on my head, so I feel good.
That helps. Yeah, we definitely did get some ice up in this area too. So, speaking of weather, it is February, which we all know, and today is the kickoff for the Division I softball. I am super excited. It's almost like Christmas comes in February. We've got NAI softball going. We've got Division II softball's already been going. Today, Division I kicks off. Junior college is getting ready to fire up. Ken, are you excited for this season coming up?
I sure am. I think it's going to be a great season. Looking forward to seeing all the games, all the different levels and all that. And just a reminder for those who listened last week, Game Changer is running all of the leadoff classic. They're streaming the whole thing. So if you want to watch that for free, go over to gamechanger.com and take advantage of it.
Fantastic. We have a great guest today on the podcast. Ken, why don't you give some people some information about our guest today?
All righty. Today's guest has a pretty interesting story. He graduated from the University of Puget Sound in Tacoma, Washington, with a bachelor's in English. He went on to get his master's degree in writing from DePaul University in Chicago, after which he began his professional career actually as a writer, proofreader, and editor. In 2016, he made a major shift in direction, moving to Horizon Science Academy in Chicago, a K-12 public charter school, where he started the school's first high school varsity fast-pitch softball team. He later went on to add a JV team while also starting a very successful summer softball program for his high schoolers, as well as the younger ages his school serves. In 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, he added the position of athletic director to his resume, probably so he could get first shot at gyms in the winter. And he still continues to serve as varsity head softball coach. Also noteworthy, by the way, is that his wife, Wendy, competed in the roller derby in Chicago as fan favorite Wendy Narling, one of the all-time great names. Please join us in welcoming one of the truly good guys in softball, JD Koziarski, to the podcast.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, Jay.
Good, JD.
I said Jay instead of JD. Oh, well, we'll fix that in editing later.
Welcome, JD. Welcome. Good to have you, buddy.
It's good to be here.
That's great. So how are things going with you? How's the prep for the season going?
Things are going great. In Illinois this year, we are allowed to legally do conditioning for our sports now. It's a new rule this year. You can do sport-specific conditioning. So we started conditioning this week with the girls, which it's a change for us, but they've all been showing up and they've been working hard. So I'm looking forward to things.
All righty, great. Well, we're going to get started here. I do want you to give us a little bit of background on you in bat and ball sports. Did you play baseball or fast pitch softball growing up?
I played baseball growing up. The highest level I played at was a club team for a college that doesn't really have sports. So not a super high level, but I played baseball growing up. I have 3 sisters. 2 of them played fast pitch softball. They were on travel teams even before everyone was on a travel team. So I've been around softball since I was a kid, but baseball is where I actually played.
All right, cool. So how did you wind up at Horizon Science Academy? Especially considering that you were, a writer. I saw an article from Chicago Magazine. I know you did a bunch of other stuff. How'd you end up at Horizon?
So my wife, Wendy, is a teacher there. She's been a teacher there since the school opened in 2013. And in the fall of 2015, she came home one day and said, "Hey, we're starting a softball team at the school, and I volunteered to coach, and you're helping me." So that's how I got in. I had talked to her about wanting to coach before. I thought it would be baseball because that was my background. But she said, "You're helping me." I said, "Okay," and because I don't have a choice if the wife says you're helping. And then from there, fell in love with it and kind of took off from there.
Can you tell us a little bit, JD, about Horizon Science Academy? Like, where is it located? How many students do you guys have? What grades? Who kind of goes there? Those kinds of things.
So as Ken mentioned in the intro there, we are a K through 12 public charter. We're on the southwest side of Chicago in the McKinley Park neighborhood. We are a non-selective school. We're lottery based, so people sign up and we do the lottery every year to see who gets in. Our total enrollment's around 900, high school enrollment's around 270. We are 96% minority enrollment. We are a Title I school, so I think it's like 85% are low-income students. Those are kind of the demographics we have at our school.
So that must have been a little more challenging. You probably don't have the same sports culture there that you would have in a more affluent area?
Absolutely not. Especially when I started there, it was there wasn't really an athletic department to speak of. There were some teams loosely affiliated where coaches would kind of have to fend for themselves. That was a challenge coming into that environment because we don't have that history and are not known as a sports school. We didn't have a bunch of kids who are athletes looking for us for sports. So it doesn't mean we don't have good athletes, but we don't have the kids where that's, or at least back then, didn't have the kids where that was a focus of theirs.
I want to talk to you real quick, JD, if we can. Speaking of back then, like, give us a little bit of an idea of how sports there has grown. Like, you started, where did you start? Where are you at now? What are some successes maybe you can share through this kind of little timeline?
So year one, that in 2016, our school at the time actually was only K through 10. So we started as K through 8 school, and then each year after they added, each grade up until 12th grade. So the first year we were K through 10. So for high school, we only had 9th and 10th graders. We were a JV team. We had 8 players for a large portion of trying to get that thing going. We practiced, I think, for a month and a half before we played a game. We would get girls would come, then they'd go. In fact, the weekend before what was to be our first game, we had a girl who had never played before. She was a sophomore, but a great athlete, picked it up right away. She would have been our starting center fielder and cleanup hitter. And she came into the Saturday practice we had and said, "This is my last practice. I'm moving to California."
Oh my God.
And she did. It wasn't lying. And so it's like, oh, great. We had one girl who joined the team. She couldn't stay with the team though, because she had to go home every day and do the dishes, her mom said.
Oh, wow.
So we had another girl who was on the team, came to practices. It was, I don't think it was our first game, but we only played 3 games our first year as a JV team. And one of those games, she just wasn't there when we were about to leave. And we are on our way to, she was our starting third baseman, and found out she skipped the game to go watch the boys play baseball. So that's where we started. We did not have any kind of culture of a team, or the school didn't have a culture. There definitely was no softball culture. And really, we didn't know what we were doing. I came in, so the first day of tryouts, I had a whole tryout plan. I don't remember everything on it, but I remember one thing we had on there was, when doing infield stuff, just work on turning basic double plays. Just have a line at short, a line at second, have someone at first, just work on how they do that. I watched them warm up playing catch, and I looked at Wendy, and I said, "We can't do any of this." So we immediately threw out the whole tryout plan, because there were maybe 3 girls who, maybe 4, I would say 4 girls who you could trust to throw and catch a ball to each other that first day. And I think we had 10 at that first tryout day. So it was not, there was nothing. It was literally starting from nothing.
Wow, that had to freak you out. I I think we've all been there where we have to kind of throw out the practice plan when we start out, but never really to that level. Jay, did you ever have anything like that when you were coaching?
Yeah, actually, I think I think we all kind of have to start there. We have these expectations of what we think it's going to be. And then when you get there, it's the exact opposite of that, or it's not even close to that. So I think even still now though, I really think like even the practice plans that we're doing now, even at the college level, like we're still working on those fundamentals of just throwing and catching, just like JD was talking about, how he had to come back and change his thought process that day. So that, yeah, I would say I think we still have to keep focusing on those small things.
What made Wendy think that she wanted to start a softball team?
We had played co-ed slow pitch leagues. She's a sports fan, probably not as big of a sports fan as I am, but we're fans of sports. She likes baseball. She likes going to baseball games. Doesn't really like watching on TV. So I think she always kind of gravitated towards softball. So, and I don't think the idea was hers to start it. I think I wasn't in the meeting, but I think it was a staff meeting where like, here are the sports we are going to have. Who wants to coach? And she volunteered.
Oh, all right. Well, that was nice. So was the administration helpful when you were starting all of this? Were they doubtful, indifferent? I mean, how did the administration feel about all this?
I would say indifferent. Our old administration, we have different people in charge now. Ultimately, though, I think that indifference helped serve us in a couple of ways. I was pretty much allowed to do whatever I wanted in terms of practice. And obviously, I would have to make sure there was gym time if we needed to be indoors, but they didn't really care what I did. I felt like I showed up and ran a thing. It almost felt like I was doing it separate from the school entirely when I started there. And I also had to learn how to do everything myself. I had to learn how to schedule games and get umpires and coordinate with the park district for fields, all of it, because our athletic director at the time, that was his title, but he wasn't really an athletic director. He told me that first year, nobody wanted to play us. And it turned out he just wasn't reaching out for games. As soon as I started reaching out to schools and started making contact, people would play. So it was a challenge because, again, I had no idea what I was doing. I was not a coach before, and I definitely wasn't a coach at the high school level where there's all the rules and regulations you have to learn. But it helped that nobody was breathing down my neck at the time. It also helped because I had Jay that summer after, I think it was during the summer after that first year, we met through a discussion board online and he offered to help me. And so we had a long phone call one day, and I actually don't remember any of the details of like what he told me at the time, but we had a long call and he gave me all this advice and tips on kind of how to start building the program going forward and everything.
So JD, let me ask you a quick question real quick too, if you don't mind. Like, I want to get into a little bit of not about me, but I want to get into a little bit more about, so here you are starting this program from scratch. It's base at the basic level. And what other resources did you find? What other things did you look into to help you grow and build this program and yourself grow as a coach? What were some of the things that you did, the resources that you reached out to, people you reached out to? Because there might be somebody listening that wants to do the same thing. Where can people get some help from? Where did you get some help from?
So the first thing, back to that very first day, that first tryout day, a good thing happened. What's good about realizing that we had a bunch of girls who, many of them had never held a bat before, is I had to understand real quick what I didn't know how to do. So I went into that thinking, I know the game, I got this. And that was true. I do know the game. But watching a girl stand there, not even know where she sees a home plate and they stand on the plate. And it's like, okay, I move them. And then I'm like, they don't know how to do anything. And that's not insulting them, but it's what it's saying is, and then I'm watching them swing and I'm like, that's obviously not how you swing a bat. And then I had to go, I actually don't know how to teach this. I know it's wrong. I know what it's supposed to look like, but I don't know how to teach this. So I learned right away, there's a lot I don't know. And so I went online, I started searching things out. I'm sure some of the things I found at the beginning were not correct. I'm sure I taught a few things that first year that weren't great, but I kept looking things up. I found the Discuss Fast Pitch message board, which I think is probably one of the best resources a softball coach can have. There's great people there. You get great advice. That was where I met Jay, and you can actually.
Yep.
So that board did a lot, because if you didn't see it there, someone would link to something. You would start to learn what's good, what's bad. From there, I would branch out. Once I kind of learned what to look for, then I would search on my own, find my own things. But it all went back to that first day, realizing that to be a coach, it's not just about, well, I understand the game, I know strategy and things like that. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, that had to be a rude awakening when you're thinking, I'm going to start here on basically step 5, assuming that 1 through 4 is already there, and then you realize I have to go to step 0. This is the end of the bet you hold.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty much. That's exactly what it was. That's what it was.
All right. So then you got going, started a team, started playing games. How'd you go from let's start a team to let's start a whole program?
I think the short answer is I fell in love with it. That first year, I was, like I mentioned, I was actually the assistant coach. My wife was the head coach. And after the season, I started having ideas for wanting to build this bigger. Part of that came from all the problems we had of girls not showing up, not having enough players. All those little things made me go, well, we have to really build this from the ground up. We have to do this the right way. One of the things we did was we have to have a rules document of what our expectations are. None of that stuff existed at our school. There was no template. I went online. I found other people's rules. I stole from it, took what I liked, added my own things. That document has changed over the years. And the other thing is I did all the practice planning that first year, and I kind of led the practices. And so I think the girls looked at me as kind of the boss, so to speak. I would very much defer to Wendy. I would try to quietly go to her and be like, hey, we're going to do this now, that type of thing. So she could lead it. But the girls kind of knew that I was sort of not in charge, but kind of running it. And so I just asked them, I want to take this over because I want to build this. We are a K through 12 school. We have an opportunity to really have a pipeline of players and teams through the years. I guess my fantasy dream job was always to be like a general manager of a sports team. I used to play out of the park baseball, computer game. I love the idea of building and running an entire organization. So I see that we're K through 12. I think of how I can almost run it like a Major League Baseball team with a whole minor league system. And I kind of approach our younger teams that way, obviously keeping in mind that our main focus is getting the girls to play, getting them to fall in love with the sport. So it's not as cutthroat as a major league team might be, but that's kind of the philosophy I have is let's build them from 10U up. Hopefully they stay with us for high school. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But that's how I thought of building the program, and how just having a team, I felt like wouldn't be doing the job completely.
Is it hard for you when you kind of work with a kid, build her up that way and all that, and then she gets to high school age, she's pretty good, and then she decides to go to a different high school?
It is, and the problem is a lot of the kids and the parents too will get. I don't want to say they think they're better than they are, but they don't know where they really fit in to the entire landscape around here. A lot of them, they see those bigger schools or the really good private schools, and they go, I want to go there. All their teams win. And okay, you're going to be on the freshman team. And hopefully after that, you make their JV team. Maybe you'll make the varsity team. And that's just being honest about it. And I don't have those conversations. I'm not going to tell a kid, right, you're not good enough. But that's what I'm thinking is with a lot of them, they go to these other schools and they end up not playing. And that's not just softball. That's all sports. That is an issue we face as we build our athletic culture at our school is trying to get the kids to realize that you're good and you might be going to a school that has a better record than us now because you think that's a better spot for you. But if you and all your friends who have that same mindset would stay, we would be the good school. So that's a challenge. We keep a decent number, but we do always lose a couple, and it hurts. We want to keep them. I'd love to keep them all the way through, but I know it's going to happen at this point. So I work with them. If they leave, they leave. Hopefully most of them stay though.
What were some of the challenges you faced trying to get the younger kids involved when you were really trying to expand the program out?
So the kids were not a problem because my wife, she started out as a first grade teacher at the school. So she knew all these kids from the beginning. And then 5 or 6 years ago, she transitioned to being an art teacher at the school, had a wider range of grades, still was able to be around. The kids get to know her. The kids all love her. So getting the younger kids to join wasn't too difficult, especially at 10U, because they all knew her and loved her as a teacher. So of course they want to play softball. And when she taught first grade, and she still does a little bit in art now, first grade, she would constantly just throw little softballs at the kids, teach them how to catch and stuff. That was part of her class and her teaching and stuff. I think it was something where it's like, okay, who's answering the question? You throw the ball to them, they catch it, they answer a question, stuff like that. So she's done a lot for kind of recruiting the kids, especially that first year when I didn't work at the school and she didn't. She was going up and down the halls, finding a high school girl saying, "You look like you'd be good at softball. Come to practice." So the real challenges are coaching. It's very hard to find good, reliable coaches who are in it for the long haul. I am too involved with too many of our teams. I coach too many teams, and I'd love to not have to. But my wife too. We also coach our 10U team. I'm involved with at the middle school level, and she'll help me out if she's available. It would be nice to have, with the number of teams we have and the number of girls that want to play, that we cannot have because we just would have too many. We really need more teams, but I don't have the coaching for it. So that's the biggest challenge even to this day. And 10U can be an adventure with parents. That is a challenge, especially at our school where we don't have a big sports culture. A lot of these kids have never. This is the first organized activity they're doing for a lot of our kids, which means it's the first organized activity a lot of the parents are involved with. So at 10U, we kind of have to coach the parents just like we're coaching the kids from the ground up. Kind of teach them to relax. That it's 10U. We want them to win too, and we try to help them win, but. It's also the umpire is probably a 14-year-old for a 10U game. So they're going to probably mess up a little bit. So just, chill out, have fun with it, all that kind of stuff.
I think that's not something that's local to you guys. I think, Jay and I can both attest to that. 10U is often the worst age. I mean, the kids are great. There's nothing wrong with the kids, but the parents are insane.
Do you agree that 10U or the younger, I won't say 10U, the younger ages are definitely the worst ages for parents? They mellow out as they get older. You agree with that?
I think that's a whole nother podcast, another day because I'm about to get on my soapbox here for a hot minute, but I would tell you at 10U and 12U, I think it's crazy. They are more worried about those kids winning and getting that little ring than the development of all the kids on teams. And that just drives me crazy. It's like, we don't know if these kids are going to be good or bad just because they're good or bad at 12U. Come on, people, right? I just feel like, 10U, it's about winning. And then all of a sudden at 16U, they kind of mellow out and they figure out, this is more about my daughter developing, getting better at her skill, getting in front of the proper coaches, those things. I mean, I have to shake my head. I mean, at least probably, 2, 3, 4 times a year with some of these things. It's just crazy.
That's been my experience too, is at the 10U level, the parents, they can just be nuts. They get very upset. They're, all over everything. And, I think by the time they get to about 16 or so, the parents have kind of, first of all, the girls are kind of, rolling their eyes at their parents all the time. And then they just, the parents have kind of figured out, I think, where their kids fit in. And they realize that Patty Gasso isn't sitting at their games, and they're not going to lose their scholarship if their kid makes an error.
Hey, JD, real quick, I do want to ask you a quick question. Do your younger age groups compete during the school year, or is that just something that you're doing with those tens and middle school kids in the summer?
So both the league we're in, so we're in a local rec league, and games usually start end of April or so, and they go until July in that area. So we start during the school year, especially with practice and everything, and games do go into the summer. So it's a little bit of a hybrid, and that actually is part of my coaching issue. Is that a lot of the teachers at the school they'd love to do it during the school year, but once we get to June, they don't want to have to come around. So I have had some people who didn't want to coach for that reason. But it's also what I like about it is I can focus on those teams more in the summer because I don't have the high school season to worry about.
One thing that Jay and I have both seen is that you've done a good job of not just building a softball program, but really trying to establish a culture. That can be challenging, especially in a situation like you have, but pretty much anywhere. I think that's universal. How did you go about making this more than just a game or a practice you show up to, and more of something that means something to the girls and something that's more of a, kind of a whole approach?
So we made it the cool thing to do. That was the plan at the beginning. After that struggle of a first season, the advantage to our athletic department and our sports programs being virtually non-existent is that there was nothing in that space. I have a little bit of a marketing background, and so I thought of it as like, okay, you're moving into an area where nothing exists that you're providing. You're providing a product almost that does not exist where you're going. So you have the ability to be the one. So the first idea I had to make it kind of a cool thing was we need merch. We need stuff. We need things for them to have and to wear and to make them kind of have pride in the team. And so we started with a fundraising plan. Every girl had to sell a box of candy. Once they sold one box of candy, they got a sweatshirt, school logo, name and number on the back. Okay, now they are branded as softball players at the school. And we didn't have that for any other sport. So now they're the ones front and center. People are asking them about the team. It starts to grow that way. It makes it seem like a real thing. A problem we had at the beginning, not just with us, because we made it seem real pretty quickly, but a lot of our sports is it didn't feel real to a lot of them because practice schedules were inconsistent. They might only play a handful of games. So a lot of kids didn't want to invest the time because they didn't think it was worth their time. So showing them this stuff we had for them made it feel like it's a real thing.
Made it tangible for them rather than just an idea?
Yes, exactly. So, my goal was to say we're a softball school. You don't hear that a lot, but that was my goal, at least athletically. The fundraising served two other purposes too. Obviously the money. My school is pretty good about giving us what we need, but this can be an expensive sport, and there's a lot of equipment. And I never wanted to not be able to do something because, well, we can't afford it. So I wanted hitting nets. I wanted tees. I wanted all the nice $300 bats because now we have kids who eventually invest in their own stuff. But back then, most of these kids didn't have their own glove at the time. So we had to get all the team equipment. And then the other thing is it gave players kind of a sense of ownership. We don't charge participation fees at our school. So if you don't have something to make the players and the parents feel like they have something invested, that interest wanes. They don't feel like it's that important to them. So, and I still see that a little bit with some of our other sports. So by fundraising for this sweatshirt, now they're part of something. Beyond that, it's making softball constantly on everyone's mind, which again was easier when there wasn't other stuff to be on their mind. It's doing more than anybody else. Because we didn't have anything established, I created social media accounts for our teams. I wanted our girls to be like the school celebrities, and that worked. sometimes girls sign up just because they know they'll get that sweatshirt? Probably. Not every JV player, and we do have JV. We are a 1A school, one of the only 1A softball programs that has a JV team in our state. So not every JV player falls in love with softball and plays 4 years and becomes a varsity starter. But that's okay, because what I learned is that for every girl who joins just because her friend joined and she just wants to have fun and doesn't really care about the sport, and she might play a couple years, fade away, there's another who joins for the same reason and ends up being better than the friend that she joined for. So I will take them all. They all know what the rules and expectations are, and eventually we will find the girls who really fall in love with it and who really want to play and who become good at it.
One of the things that I'm wondering about, as you talk about this, so is there ever a conflict between JD, the softball coach, and JD, the athletic director? Because you do have that role as well. Do you want to make the softball players the celebrities in the school? Are you encouraging now other coaches to kind of take that same approach or to look at it from that larger lens?
Yes. So just as when I took over or when I started coaching, it was, let's figure this out for myself. The same thing really as AD, because I do not have a sports administration background. So most of what I learned on how to be an AD was as a coach, where it's like, I got to do all this stuff. So I had that base of knowledge, but I also, because I did it all myself, I do expect my coaches to be more involved. And we need that at our school. Our kids, because again, they are not necessarily I just love basketball and I will play for any coach. And they want to play because they know the coach, they like the coach. That's a big part of what draws kids in at our school. It has to be more than just the sport. They need to get something else out of it, whether it's that coach who can be a mentor for them, or maybe it's just a coach they like. So I do want my coaches to do as much of this extra stuff as they want. And if they don't, they don't. And the teams don't have it. A simple example is like social media graphics. I don't run photo shoots for all the teams. If you want pictures so I can do graphics, you got to take the pictures. I'll make the graphics. I do all the graphics. I make everything. A couple of our teams, they don't bother taking the pictures. So they get a simple post that says, game today against this school at this place. The ones who do the pictures, and most of them do at this point, they get the whole thing. They get a nice graphic and with the post and everything like that. But I do want my coaches to be more invested.
That's great. Speaking of investment too, JD, I think that you've gotten your older players to invest with some of your younger players. I think one of the cool things that you've done is getting some of your older high school players to help out with the younger girls. How do you get them to put time in like that, or do they ask you to do it, or is it like, hey, it's mandatory? How did you make that come about?
It's not mandatory. They, for whatever reason, they love to do it. So every year, I think this will be the 4th year I'm doing it. So for our 10U team, we get a high school girl to work as an assistant. I do pay her a little bit just out of my own pocket just to help us out. But even beyond that, if we've been doing our 10U. So for last year, we only had 3 returning 10U players. So we started 10U with just some preseason practices back in November, just 1 day a week on Saturday. Just had open to everybody come in, and then we did a tryout last month. So at a couple of the practice days and stuff in the tryouts that we did after school, any of the girls from the team who were there, a lot of them play basketball. It's, hey, help out today. And okay. And they just help out. They do whatever we ask. The one who comes and coaches, we do require them to be there. If they commit to it, it's like you're a coach on this team. You have to be here. And I do that not just for the help. A lot of them want to get into teaching. Some of them just like to help. Some of them want to coach. The first player I had do that, she's now in college, and I've hired her to help us coach one of our middle school teams this year. So she's coming back now to be a real coach and not just my high school helper.
Was that Natalie?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I do some things with JD's team. That's how I got to know him and all that. So Natalie was a girl when I first started working with her on pitching and all of that. She had no clue I'm not sure if she'd even watched anybody pitch before, but she worked really hard. She got pretty good at it. And then I came out to do some lessons out that way, and the 10U team was practicing. And I was so surprised to see Natalie there. I had no idea she'd gotten that much into it, but it was like, what a great feeling to see that here was this girl who had kind of come up from nothing. Now she's trying to help the other girls, the younger girls, maybe give them a head start so they would be better off than she was when she started at it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What kind of success have your teams had, your high school teams, and I guess your summer teams as well? Are they? Is it a winning culture, or are you guys doing pretty well these days?
So we're by no means a state powerhouse. I don't know if that's something that we will ever be. Our teams do well in the rec league they're in. I know how many championships we've won, but because I use that to help promote our teams in-house, but I'm not going to brag about rec league titles because I understand what they are. Again, that's more for them and for the parents. And for me to, at the school, when I'm trying to get more stuff for the team or add a team, and I can go to the principal and be like, we've won all these championships. But for me, that those rec league championships, beyond seeing them be excited for it, that's not really what it's about for me.
Although I will say that, they're competing at their own level. So they may not be playing the highest level of softball, but there's still other teams that are at a comparable level. So if you're winning and you're, getting championships and all that kind of thing, it's still a good accomplishment.
It is. But for me, at the high school level, I do want to win games during the high school season. For that is my priority. The thing that my goals are based all around making the high school team as good as it can be. So, like I said, we get a lot of girls who have never played softball before. Some have never played a sport. A lot of them don't join until they get to high school. I love seeing them become good at something. And I'm talking the ones who are not good at the beginning. The ones we've had some girls where they come out and we off to the side whisper to each other, like, should we let her play? Is this going to be dangerous for her? Some of those girls, they might not become superstars. They're not going to go to college and play, but they can become starters for us and contributors to the team. That's a lot of fun. I really like seeing that. But our team wins, and our team wins enough that the players want to come back and keep playing, which really is, I think, the most important thing.
Yeah, it's hard to get kids to keep going if you're losing all the time. I know it's not all about winning and losing, and especially at that level, but still, winning, as they say in Bull Durham, winning is a lot more fun than losing.
That is true.
Very true. Hey, JD, also, how do you think your softball program is benefiting your players outside of winning games and championships? You already talked about Natalie coming back. Give us some other ideas of how you think this is benefiting your players outside of winning those championships or games.
I mentioned like the girls who go from being not good, not knowing how to do it, to figuring it out and becoming good. You see them start to have confidence, not just with softball. They really do become different people, especially since COVID. I know people talk about COVID. COVID changed our kids. I can't really explain how or why, but the kids since then they're a little different coming up. And I think a lot of them really need something to kind of latch onto to make their thing. It helps get these girls out of their shells. And so that, I think, is one way it really helps them.
Without naming names, can you share like a story, somebody that you can think of that, where you really saw a change in that person?
I mean, there's a bunch. One, it's someone you know well. And this is softball development mostly, but I think there's personal development in it too. I mean, in 10U, it's not that she was bad, but she drove me crazy. And a lot of it was like, she was not coachable. Not a bad kid at all, but just frustrating because it's like, why are you doing this? And And the first time she came to you to pitch, I remember we had a conversation about, and I don't remember what she was doing or not doing, but you said, well, she's not listening to anything I'm saying. And she is now our number one pitcher on the high school team. Probably the most coachable player.
Yeah.
Very easy to work with. No problems. And still the personality probably hasn't changed too much, but in terms of focusing and being locked in, which applies to the sport, but being able to do that in life is important too, knowing how to work to accomplish a task. She's someone that I've seen a big change in her. She's still goofy like she was when she was 10U, but I think she's learned how to be goofy, but also focus when she needs to focus and do what she's supposed to do and all that.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about, and I would agree. She's still her. There's no question about that. And that's part of what makes her fun to work with. Is just she's got a very interesting personality. She's her own person, and but yes, she also, you can tell that she really wants it. It became part of her identity, and she works hard. We're at the point now, which I typically do with high school players, is when we start up, I'll say, okay, so what do you want to work on today? Rather than, me trying to dictate to it. They know who they are. They know what they're having trouble with. They know what they might want to do better. And so, I try to give them some ability to have input in it. And she's definitely one that she knows what she wants to work on that day.
Yeah. And, some of the ones that really jump out to me are the girls who actually are never that great at softball. They become competent players that come from nothing. Some of that development, what I see in them, might even be greater than the ones who actually are really good at it. There's a girl we have. She's a junior right now. Started as a freshman, hadn't played before. That summer, at the end of that summer, I don't know if I had the idea or if she did, but she's a small girl, kind of fast. We turned her around, batted her lefty. Just started in the middle of the summer. And I told her, I'm like, you might struggle with this for a while because we're just trying it. And the summer is when I try things with them. And she took to it pretty well and batted lefty all last year. And then in the summer, she goes, can you teach me how to slap? And in one day, one practice session, she got all the basics down, started doing it in games. Now, is she doing everything you can do as a slapper? Is she power slapping? No, she's not doing everything, but she figured out the footwork. She can get the ball down to the left side and can beat out the throw. And she went from bottom of the order girl who it's like, well, let's hope she walks because there's probably not, and she could make contact, but now just by figuring out the slapping, she gets herself in motion. Now those little weak ground outs, they're base hits for her. And she figured that out really in one day. And so that stuff like that, and seeing her, that gave her the confidence as a player. It helped her defensively because I think I think it made her feel like, okay, I can do something out here now. And it turned everything around. Like, I don't know how figuring out slapping made her a better defensive player, but it did. And I think it just made her more confident. It made her understand like, oh, I can do this. I can figure all this out. And so that's the type of stuff that, and my hope is that type of thing carries over outside of softball, because the question was about how, like, more than just on the softball field, how does this help them? And my hope is that they can take stuff like that and go, well, I wasn't good at softball and I got good at it, so maybe I can figure this other thing out that I don't know how to do.
Yeah, I know. I've definitely seen that with some of the girls I've worked with in your program. Just, when they were around for 2 or 3 years, you just see the level of confidence they have and just the way that they approach it. It's completely different. Jay, I'm sure you've had a lot of experience with that as well, where you take a kid that maybe isn't the best athlete, but you see her all of a sudden kind of get it. And, it just changes her entire personality.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think we're teaching. I always say we are not just coaching the athlete. We're coaching people. And I think it's just, we're preparing these students for things outside of softball life, right? It just teaches you discipline. It teaches you responsibility. It teaches you things that you have to do to work through the hard times to get to the good times. I think all of those things are just extremely important, and that's what this game teaches you, and that's what those girls that JD has are learning. They're learning more skills than just softball skills, and I think that's the beauty of the whole thing.
It teaches you how to try new things.
Yeah.
Because again, so many of these girls haven't played before, but even within the game, yesterday at conditioning, we were doing box jumps, and you would be shocked at how many of them are afraid, or maybe you wouldn't, but how many of them were just terrified to try it. And I'm talking the 1 foot box, and they could all do that, and they all could, and they all did it. And then we'd go progressively higher, and some got to a point where they really couldn't do a certain height. But watching them, the ones who did want to push themselves and go, I don't know if I can do this, and watch them, they start the jump, or they'll jump straight up, but they won't. They're testing it out. It's almost like dipping your toe in the pool. Like, oh, can I do this? And then watching them do it, and they do it, and they're like, oh, yeah. It's like, yeah, I told you could do that. But they need to try it. They need to just go for it. And I really think our program helps the girls with that at all the ages. And I will say, though, the ones who start earlier, they develop that attitude where you see it. It's like, oh, you've been playing for a while, not because you're good at softball, but because you're not worried about failing or looking bad or whatever, because you've been doing this long enough. The ones who start later, those are the ones that take longer to kind of break them out of that and get them to go, like, just try it. And so I hope they take that and do that in their outside of softball lives.
Yeah, well, there's no question that if you're afraid of failure, softball is not the game for you. It's built on failure.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So I'm going to ask you a big question now. What advice do you have for someone that might be listening to this and thinking, yeah, they want to start a program like this, whether it's a rec program or it's a travel program or a high school program or something else, but they want to do what you've done? What kind of advice do you have for them?
So I think the answer is probably different whether you're talking about school or travel or whatever. Because I've been working at a school and I've done this at a school, that's where I feel comfortable saying, especially if you are at a newer place or a place without an established sports culture, the number one biggest thing you need to do is make it fun. Make it, like I said, I wanted it to be the cool thing to do. Make it fun, because you're probably attracting kids where they don't have a love for the game yet. So you're not getting people because they're like, well, I want to play softball because I love softball. So if you're building something up, you have to make this the fun thing. You are competing for their attention with everything else that's out there for them to do. So you have to show them that this is more fun than all the other stuff they could be doing, which is not easy to do. And you need to keep them coming back. Not every girl that plays with us plays forever. Some play for a couple years and stop. That happens. But the biggest thing, what I really judge if we're headed in the right direction on, is how many girls sign up again next year. And the ones that don't, why? I mean, sometimes if someone transfers from our school, we're obviously going to lose them. Or some just go, it wasn't for me. Okay, it's not going to be for everybody. But I don't want people leaving because the experience was bad for them. And so, and I don't think that happens too often, where they just felt like, well, I would have liked it, but this and this happened. If they don't like it, it's because they either our sport or maybe sports in general, not for them. So I think that is something that you need. Your goal should be get as many of them to play as possible and get as many of them to come back the next year as possible. Doesn't hurt to be good at coaching, which seems obvious, but like I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation here, that you have to be willing to learn. You have to figure out pretty quickly what you are good at, what you're not good at as a coach, what you like to do and don't like to do. There's certain parts of coaching that I don't like, which is why, Ken, you come to work with our pitchers, because I don't. There's something about the process of that, working with the pitcher, that it's just not my favorite thing to do. I will work with them, but I don't know if it's maybe teaching the basics can take so long for it to click that I lose a little bit of patience with it after a while. I'm not sure what it is, but I know that is a limitation of mine. And while I work to get better with that, I found others who could step in to fill what I wasn't good at. Same thing in team practices. There's stuff I know I'm good at. There's stuff I know my wife is good at. I find out what my other assistant coaches, my JV coaches can do and what they're better at. Some of them, they hit infield and they're not great at teaching because they just don't have the experience in the game. Okay, well, now I don't have to hit infield because you can do that. Now I can take some off to the side and work on something else. So it's kind of finding those roles that people are good at can help. You have to do the work. Put in if you're at a school, put in face time, especially if you're not on staff there. I am now as athletic director, so I'm at the school a lot more than I was when I started. But they have to know you. And maybe this is just our kids. Maybe it's kids everywhere. I don't know. But, our kids, they need to know their coaches. So you got to put in that work of being there, getting to know them, making them feel comfortable around you. Because, and probably more with girls and boys, but if some girls, if they say, yeah, this is a good place to be, you're going to get more to join. So I think that's it, in terms of starting it. It's do the work and make it fun.
JD, we are 3 weeks away before your high school season here in Illinois kicks off.
Yes, we are.
What's the outlook for you and your team this year? What are you looking at?
If everything goes right, I think we can win the first regional in our school's history. Not just softball, but no sport at our school has won a regional. We have 5 seniors, which is the most we've ever had for a season we got to play. We had 7 in 2020 when the season was wiped out. 2 of those seniors have played with us since 10U. So they're our first girls to go from 10U all the way through as seniors and will graduate as a member of our program, which is something really cool. That is, regardless of the wins and losses this year, that is something that I'm really proud of, that it shows what we're doing is working. It's evidence of this whole plan that we had 9 years ago now to build this thing it's worked. And winning a regional would be a great way to kind of cap that off. I think we could do it. We might need a little bit of seeding luck because there's a couple teams in our regional that are tough, but I think there's a lot of teams that we can compete with. And our girls are really excited. They've been talking since the fall about how they can't wait for the season. So I'm hoping we can turn that excitement into success on the field. Our summer team, high school summer team last year did win their league championship, and they did it winning, I think, 9 straight games to end the year. We started out kind of average, and then they just went on this roll. So I'm hoping, even though that was months ago, I'm hoping they can remember that and build off of that, because I really want that regional plaque. I want it because I want our girls to recognize how good they are. I still see us as something of an underdog, not so much on the field, because I know that we can compete with these teams we're going to play with. But as a program and kind of as a school, I always think, how can we show them, them being like a non-existent group of people who doubt us. Those people aren't really there, but I want to be a team, and I know fast pitch softball is not like the top sport in Chicago by any means, and it's not on everybody's mind. But for the people who are involved, I want to be a school and a team that people go, hey, they're pretty good. I do think we're already there to some extent. I have had 3 schools decline to play our varsity team this year because it's not competitive enough. So I guess that's a compliment.
That they wouldn't be competitive with you?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice feeling instead of being the other way, huh?
Well, it's great until I don't have enough games to play because teams don't want to play. So that's a struggle. But yeah, so I want to, from the beginning, I wanted us to be a softball school, and I wanted our softball players to be the school celebrities. And I think that this is a year where we can kind of show people that that's what we are.
Well, that'd be very cool. Good luck to you with that.
Thank you.
Obviously, what you're doing is working. So, anything else that you'd like to say about building a program that we haven't covered?
It's a cliche a lot of coaches use to say your team is a family. I'm sure every coach does that. Every coach says, "Oh yeah, we're a family." I really do view our girls as a family. I know them better than I know my own nieces and nephews, which isn't great, but that's because I'm around them more. And I don't get to know every single girl as well as I'd like. But the one thing I know and I'm certain of is that the players know I care about them. The coaches at our school who struggle are the ones who show up, coach the sport, go home. They're not bad coaches. They know the sport. They know how to teach it. But I think what they might be missing is that our kids need more than that. And they really do need to know you care about them. And so bring that to the table when you're building a program. You can't force it, but make them know you care. And it will be so much easier and honestly more fun, because then you really do get to know them as people. And I guess the only other thing is find yourself a pitching coach who knows what they're doing, because softball, you cannot win without pitching.
Yeah, well, certainly this goes back to that old cliche, but I think it's true, is that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And, you certainly have shown that to your kids. I've watched that over the years, and just how you relate to them and how they relate to you. And it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Thank you. It's great. I love it.
You're doing great work over there, JD. Keep it up, man.
Thank you.
You're definitely making a difference both on the diamond and off of the diamond. So keep it up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, JD, I think I know you've got other things that you have to do. We've taken up a lot of your time today, but we appreciate you doing that. Thanks for joining us and giving your thoughts.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for having me. It was fun. I enjoyed this.
Great. Jay, you want to take us out?
Sure. Again, thanks, JD, for coming on today. A lot of great stuff that you were able to share. Hopefully people are listening to this and will take some great things away from you building a program from scratch. Talked a little bit about how much you care for your players and the growth. Good luck to you this year, JD. Thanks again for joining Ken and I on From the Coach's Mouth podcast. And we can't thank you enough for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. Bye-bye.